Welcome back. Today, episode number 4, we're talking all about search plans as part of my Business 101 or Get Into Business 101 special feature series for the summer of 2024, celebrating the release of the new book coming out Labor Day. I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses while controlling risk. So if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win. Hey everyone, welcome back. Once again, this is a special series, Get Into Business 101. I get so many inquiries and comments about people who say, I just want to be in business, I just want to have a business. And sometimes people don't have the resources to buy a business. And so naturally, it makes sense to consider starting one. And so in celebration of the new book coming out Labor Day, Buying versus Starting a Small Business, we're exploring that this summer. So today is episode number 4, and we're going to be talking about the search plan. And so, even if you're going to start a business or you want to start something from scratch, I highly recommend that you spend some time working on a search plan and engaging in some level of search just because of the research opportunities available to you by looking at packages that have been put together for businesses that might be for sale in the industry that you want to start a business in. Okay. So I've got a whole agenda here on the side. So excuse me while I dart my eyes from time to time. We're going to be talking about this. So today we're going to make and execute a search plan. We're going to talk about proprietary searches versus brokered searches and how you should think about each one. And the very first thing to do is figure out what industries you want to be in. Now, back in episode number 2, we talked about skills, resources, etc., that you have available. In that episode, I talked about how you look at your personal skills and your experiences and the things that you're good at and the things you've learned to do. And then you figure out what industries you might be able to apply those to. If you've got an idea to start a business, for example, it's even clearer than that. You already know what the industry is going to be. And so you put together a list of industries based on where you think you have skills, where you can add value. I am a huge proponent of getting into a business that you know something about. I recently consulted with someone who wanted to get into an industry related to recycling and waste management, and did not know who the operator of the landfills were for the municipalities that they were serving, right? And so I said, this is part of the basic research, like understanding the whole ecosystem of how waste is handled. Where does it go when the garbage man picks it up from the end of your driveway? Is there a sorting regimen? Is there a place where they're diverting some of the waste, right? Like this business plan involved saying we're going to recycle this amount of this specific material. And when I started asking questions about how they knew that the volume of primary material that was there to be recycled would be available, like they just didn't know. So you need to figure out what your industry is going to be. You need to figure out the research around the ecosystem that it operates in, et cetera, so that you have some degree of knowledge of what's going on in a business. If you don't know anything about an industry, you're open to blind spots like the one I just described, right? And that's not what you want. You don't want to start investing money, time, effort, only to discover after significant investment that there's huge things you just didn't know that mean that your plan may not be viable at all, right? So this is why I always encourage people to know something about the industry they're getting into. So once you've got a list of industries, so let's say, roofing, fence building, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it's going to be, restaurant industry, something, you want to research the addressable market. So for roofing, for example, how often does a house need to have new shingles? Well, you can probably figure that out, right? With a little bit of research. If you are experienced in construction trades, you probably already know that, if houses buy 20-year shingles, guess what? They likely need to be replaced in 12 to 15 years. I don't know where the rating comes from. I honestly don't. And so if you know that, then what do you need to know next? You need to know the number of homes in a market area, for example. And then you can do some simple division and figure out how many homes are likely going to be buying new shingles or having their roofs replaced each year, right? And then you can see how much work there is in a given market and figure out, is this market big enough for the business I want to be in? You can then create a list of the competitors, maybe figure out on average how many, roofs they might be doing, et cetera. So it's understanding the addressable market once you've chosen the industry. Again, you want to ask some pretty basic questions about an industry. Is the industry growing? What does it look like in the future? Are there any concerns? So, with respect to roofing, is there a trend towards metal roofs that last longer, that don't have to be replaced as often? Is there a trend towards some kind of high tech roofing material that produces electricity from the sunlight? I don't know. How long does that stuff last? Does it last longer than an asphalt shingle? Probably, right? And what is the uptake or the industry, like the absorption by the consumer base of this new technology, right? So these are the things you want to consider, because you're buying a business today, and if you buy a business and you pay for it based on the cash flow today, and you are a younger person, you're less than middle aged, then likely you're going to want to operate the business for maybe a couple decades. So if there are some long-term trends that kind of work against the business, then that's going to be something you want to be aware of, right? Because it's going to change the way you plan and go about a business. You could buy a business that you can see is involved in a long-term sunset towards, not being as good as it is today. That's just going to change the way you operate it. You're maybe going to siphon off more funds to make investments outside the business. Maybe you're going to siphon off funds to make other acquisitions down the road. Maybe you will not be planning on the sale of the business to fund your own retirement. You're going to know that you have to have some alternative plan. I'm not necessarily here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but the more information about what you have about what's coming down the road means you can make more informed decisions as you progress through your career and ownership. And that's what I'm a proponent of, is just having information to make informed decisions. Because even if 30 years from now, people will not be using asphalt shingles anymore, there is still going to be a demand and money to be made in replacing shingles between now and then, right? So analyzing the industry, is it growing, etc. Determine your territory for search. So where are you willing to go? I sometimes speak to people who are young, have no families. They're open to moving anywhere, right? So if you're open to moving anywhere, it means you can be really specific about the kind of business you're looking for, because you can pull up stakes and move to another place. If you have family ties, if your spouse is married and has a great career, if you've got children in school and you're close to grandparents and stuff like that, then you may not be so willing to move geographically. So figure out what your territory is. How big a range are you willing to entertain when you're doing your search? This is a sales effort. So searching for a business and trying to convince someone to sell it to you or convince someone to accept your offer is a sales job. What you are doing is selling an opportunity to exit. And this is the way you should be thinking about it. So if I'm selling an opportunity to exit, it's just like if I'm a sales rep for a machine or a product, right? So it's who potentially could use it, where are they, how do I find them, how do I build a relationship with them, right? So you can then very easily see how a proprietary or self-managed search is going to work. You're going to identify your industry, your territory. Now you have to identify which businesses exist within that geographical area that are in that industry. You start building a list. Generate this from, I always jokingly say, from the yellow pages, right? So you can find data like that, listing directory websites, Google, right? So again, with the roofing analogy, roofing businesses, roofing contractors in Memphis, right? Like, businesses are trying to get customers they don't hide. So you do a search like that, you're going to find them all. You build a spreadsheet, maybe even hire someone on Fiverr or Upwork to help you do this, right? You build a database, get their addresses, get their phone numbers, get their websites, etc. So you can start to do a little bit of research. Well, now you have to figure out, how am I going to have a conversation with these people in order to sell them the opportunity to exit, right? And so you're going to figure out who owns them. You're going to figure out how you're going to contact them or where they might be hanging out, if there's an association or something, right? So you are trying to get yourself in front of the decision maker, which in the case of selling an opportunity to exit is the current owner, right? So you got to figure out who they are. Now that you're thinking about this like a sales sort of exercise, where do business brokers fit in? Well, you should consider business brokers like a wholesale or distributor channel for your sales effort. So if you're trying to sell, I don't know, machines, you're trying to sell tire balancing machines to auto repair places, right? You can go knock on the door of auto repair places, or you can find the automotive machine distributor who already sells to all those auto repair places. And you can go to them and say, hey, would you like to sell my machine? I'll give you a wholesale price. And now you're going to take advantage of the relationships that that distributor already has. That's how you should think about business brokers, because they are talking to all kinds of business owners saying, we want to sell your business. I'll help you sell your business. And they're basically managing all that outreach. And when people say, raise their hand and say, yeah, I want to sell my business, the broker then takes them through a process of some kind to then prepare the business for sale, prepare documentation, etc. And obviously I've spoken a lot before between qualified versus, brokers that don't really know what they're doing. But if it's a great qualified broker who sets the expectations of the seller, puts a good package together, helps them set a reasonable price, that's going to make your job easier, right? And so once you determine the industries and the market, then you can reach out to brokers and say, these are the kinds of businesses I'm looking for in this area, right? So those are the wholesale channels. um, Study businesses for sale in your target industry. So when you go and you look on BizBuySell or one of these other websites and you find businesses that meet your criteria, you should certainly sign the NDA and get the package, because you want to study them. Even, and this is where I'm talking about, even if you want to start a business, go through this effort, because you can learn so much about the business you're trying to start by looking at people's businesses that are already in the industry, right? It's a great way to prospect and do investigation and learn more. Some other ways to learn about an industry that, and you should do this whether you're a buyer or a starter, is to do some industry benchmarking research. So I delved into this in depth in a February 2024 video called "Is Entrepreneurship for the Privileged?", which we'll put a link to somewhere in here, in which I looked at a news article, opinion piece, story kind of thing, where a guy was lamenting a poor business performance. And then I went and searched the Industry Canada data on that industry and showed just how crappy the industry was. And his, what expectations he should have had in looking at that industry. And so there's two places where I point people to find benchmarking data uh, that they can access for free. Number one is RMA, Risk Management Associates, which is not free. However, many university libraries or big city public libraries will subscribe to this. And so if you are an alumni of your university, you can often get library access virtually through the internet, where you can like sign in through some kind of portal and you may be able to access RMA data. And I've also had many clients over the years in my group, my Business Buyer Advantage group coaching program, who have, because they lived in major metros, have been able to sign up through the big downtown central library location and actually use a portal to get access to RMA data. And so Risk Management Associates will use tax return information to kind of separate industries by quartile and give you an idea of sort of their numbers, like what their general gross margin is, what they pay for rent on average, all kinds of details like that. So you can get an idea of what these businesses look like. Uh, Industry Canada does the same thing for Canadian tax returns, but it's just open and free online on a portal. And that's the data that I showcased when I did the "Is Entrepreneurship for the Privileged" video that you should check out. So this is going to give you a real heads up to show you just how these businesses perform. Because if you look at some CIMs or business profiles and you do some research using these data sources that I mentioned, you can get a real idea of what the true expectations you should have for actual performance. It's easy when you're creating a business plan from scratch to simply say, here's my cost, here's what I'm going to charge, here's what I estimate my overhead to be, my different expenses, and this is how much money I'm going to make. And what you don't factor in is all of the other stuff. Like, I once had a cabinet company as a client, and they were charging the right gross margin when they made a sale. But the reason they weren't making any money was because they kept having to send their installers back to repair and fix things that weren't done the first time correctly, right? And so they had a quality control issue in their installation that meant that they had to keep sending people out. And every time they had to send someone out to address something, it was like 3 or 4 hours of time that they couldn't be doing something productive. And when all of that sort of labor drag or labor resistance on the business was applied, it ate up the gross margin and they weren't able to make any money. And so you want to know, how do businesses actually perform versus your idealized? It's, in the world of real estate investing, people will jokingly call this the real estate agent pro forma, where it'll say, here's the rent and here's, the bills, etc., but they don't factor in, you know, um, what you have to do to collect the rent or the vacancy rate or something like that. So um, when you look at the businesses that you find that are for sale in your industry, you want to look and compare them with the benchmarking data. How is this business operating compared to the benchmark, right? Is it good? Is it bad? If you're going to start a business, how likely is it going to be that you're going to be performing better than or worse than the business that you're looking at, right? Next up, meet some of the sellers, because this is going to be your one opportunity to actually talk with someone who is an industry veteran in the business or industry that you intend to get into. Again, whether you want to buy a business or start a business, having these conversations is going to be really important. I will often get clients who will say, I want to buy a business in my local market, and then they find one for sale that is almost an identical business that would suit them, but it's too far away. And I encourage them, go have the meeting, like go investigate it, go learn from that person, um, because you could find out some very interesting things. And information, knowledge, developing your skills in looking at businesses, it's part of the skill set that is going to pay dividends as a business buyer. But you're also going to pick up little bits of information that are really going to inform the decisions that you might be making as a business operator or as a business starter. So that's step number 4. This is video number 4, the search plan. Next week, tune in again. We're going to be talking about making a startup part of your BATNA, even if you want to buy a business. And so stay tuned. Again, this is all stuff in the lead up to the release on Labor Day of my new book, Buying versus Starting a Business. If you want to sign up right now, you can pre-order the Kindle edition on Amazon by heading over to dcbbooklist.com. That's my online Amazon bookstore. It's got links to all the books that I've written, as well as books that I've read from other people that I think are just fantastic. So the pre-order is there. It will be available as a paperback and an audiobook as well, but you'll have to wait until September to be able to make those orders. And so thanks very much. I look forward to seeing you again, and talk to you later. So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally, and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.